Hello and welcome to another episode of the Uncommon Energy Podcast. On this week's episode, we're going to be talking about the results from the Baltimore Regional Championships, which took place this past weekend. Not only the results, but a bit of the discussion that happened around the event, some issues with the venue, some issues with the chairs, and then also some issues with the new tournament structure. We'll give our opinions on all of that. We will get back to an old segment, City League Watch, and take a look at what's happening over in Japan because they have a brand new set that is legal for play now over there. We will, of course, have everyone's favorite segment, Guess That Flavor Text. And then we're going to wrap up this week's episode by giving our kind of first impressions of Stellar Crown. It's been out for just under a week now at this point on TCG Live. We're going to look at some of the results from some early online Limitless tournaments, see what's been doing well as players are preparing for upcoming League Cups, and then also Louisville Regionals just on the horizon. My name is Chip Ritchie, joined here as always by my friend and co-host Azul GG. What's up, Azul? How we doing? Oh, also, I did forget to mention, after all that is done, we will also have the bonus episode as well. So yeah, here we are.
I'm doing pretty good, Chip. Was restreaming the Baltimore Regional Championships, which was a ton of fun to do. I guess I did a decent amount of restreaming last season as well, but I didn't restream any of the American Canadian events. So it's kind of cool to restream the first event of the season and kind of just be in sync with all of that with the restreaming. Like as far as it goes, gonna try and restream Dortmund in a couple weeks. Coming up this weekend, there's the Champions League. So we'll talk about that a little bit more when we take a look at the City League. What's been doing well with the new cards, or what new cards are being played from, was it Paradise Dragonia or whatever it's called? So that's the news that they have over in Japan. So I'm excited for Champions League this weekend to see. No, I guess not what's just what they're doing with those cards, but they also have the battle decks, the Sarah Ledge, Sylveon thing as well.
Yep.
And it's another big tournament in with Stellar Crown cards, which those cards seem to be having the biggest impact, I would say, among those three things that they have over in Japan. So yeah, I'm just excited to restream some more events, keep going up with the content. The content's been pretty good, and really been enjoying it. There's so much Pokemon to still play in Stellar Crown, though. I feel like there's so many decks to try out. There's so many decks I haven't tried out, and I'm not even traveling to tournaments right now. But there's still so much Pokemon to play. So really enjoying all the content and stuff like that. But yeah, how was your week, Chip? How was your weekend?
It was pretty good. Yeah. So I was not at Baltimore Regionals either. I was actually in Vegas with a bunch of friends for what is, I guess, become kind of like an annual get together. We did it last year. We did it again for the second time this year. And, we might keep up doing it in the future. And it was just like a weekend to get together with some friends and really just cube Pokemon TCG cubing. If you've listened to the podcast for a while, you've heard me talk about it. But if you don't know what cubing is, it's just like a draft format for the Pokemon TCG. Effectively, got a pretty good group of friends that we've played together at events over the years, and then also online some. And then we all got together this weekend for the Chaos Cube Championships, as I guess it is starting to be called. Puka tweeted out a thread about it over on Twitter and went through the whole gauntlet. It was actually really fun because it was like kind of competitive cubing as well. So there were 14 of us. Only 8 people can cube at a time. So what we did is we rotated through. Everyone did 4 total drafts, and then the people we did Swiss rounds. So you drafted, you played 3 Swiss rounds, and then the people at the end of those drafts, it was like a total of 7 drafts. Everyone got to do 4. Um, the top 8 people got to do one final like big draft. And so it was pretty fun. It was like definitely like super nerdy level cubing stuff, right? But it was a ton of fun to like have like a competitive cubing outlet. It was a blast. And I did get to win one cube, which was nice. I did win one of the I won the 7th and final cube. It was actually kind of crazy because going into this 7th cube, to determine who would be the top 8 for the last cube. There was like 4 of us in there who did not have a spot locked up, who all needed to go like 2-1 or 3-0 to like lock up a spot and get a chance in. So I was able to come in clutch, get the dub with a SP deck using Power Glass, which was definitely one of the MVPs, and got to do the last draft.
That was pretty dope. That is definitely taking cubing to the next level for sure. That sounds kind of exhausting. I'm not gonna lie. I like cubing now and then. One cube. That's a lot of cubing though.
It was a lot of cubing for sure, but a ton of fun.
Who is on those hats?
Oh, man. That's a story for another time.
Okay. The chaos champion, plaque is kinda cool, though.
It is cool, and we did it this last year, like I mentioned. Let me just hang on.
Chip's
And
getting
we
something for
had a
everyone, as
little
they
bit of a
say.
different setup, but I did win last year that we did this. I have my trophy here.
Oh, you couldn't
Nowhere
defend
n
your title.
nowhere near as cool as the plaque, and yes, I
Yeah,
could not defend my title. I did my best. I did clutch up and make it into the final eight-person draft, but unfortunately, some things did not go my way in the draft, and I had a pretty quick 0-2 exit from that, final double elimination draft.
unlucky, unlucky.
Unfortunate, yeah.
Alright, I was gonna say, I was about to jump into Baltimore, but, got some announcements about the bonus episode to go over real quick.
Yeah, yeah. So we've been talking about some changes for our bonus episode. We've been using Patreon for the last, I guess, almost a year or so, something like that.
Mhm.
Um, we decided to switch over to just doing channel members on YouTube. So if you're interested in supporting us and also getting more content, the channel membership on YouTube is a good way to do it. But some people on Patreon were worried and kind of curious about ways that if they're an audio listener, that they would still be able to access the bonus episodes if they're like not someone who uses YouTube really. So what we've done is we've set it up so that we can do Spotify subscriptions. I think it's a subscription on Spotify. So if you're listening on Spotify, you now have that option. So if you're an audio listener, if you're on Apple Music or some other audio platform, I think Spotify is the only one we can set up with this right now. But we are going to have that as an option for future bonus episodes. So if you want to enjoy the bonus episodes, it's as simple as subscribing to the podcast on Spotify, and you'll get access to that extra 30-ish minutes of content every single week.
And then also available with the YouTube memberships here, and then if you were someone who was, subscribed over on Patreon, we'll still be running that out to the end of the month for the bonus episode.
Yeah.
Alright, let's get into Baltimore. Neither of us were there. It was a pretty big tournament, though, 2,300, which how does that fall in terms of scale compared to stuff that we had last year? Not as big as NAIC, but oh, there you go.
Yeah.
I see you got it pulled up, yeah.
It was about as big, a little
As
smaller
Indy,
than indie regionals.
yeah. So we'll probably break the regional record this season at some point. Who knows? I don't know if we'll get a regional to be 2,700 as big as NAIC last year. Probably will be tough, but I think we'll probably break the indie record then of the 2342.
Yeah, let's look at North American regionals all time. Oh, I need to expand the entries per page. North American regionals all time. Yeah, we can see it was the
Oh, Florida
one of
was
the
bigger.
highest attended ones. But yeah,
Okay, yeah.
Florida is still the largest regionals of all time. Florida last season back in April.
Yeah, but they both were last season. Okay, but yeah, it's pretty close. You think we'll get what do you think if you had to put it guess a number, 24, 25? Where do you think we land?
I don't know. I think Louisville will probably be. Wait, no, Louisville capped early, right?
Yeah, Louisville's
Louisville's going to be
not that big.
smaller.
I think it's
Yeah,
only
I
gonna
don't
have
know.
8.
Maybe we won't beat it. It depends on what the caps are for these tournaments, and we don't even know all the locations yet, right? Like,
Yeah, they did I haven't seen this before. Hang on, I'll go ahead and link this to you in Discord. I got the image right here, so if you wanna pull this up. Um, I hadn't seen this before. Had they posted this? Is this the first time they showed this graphic? They showed this on stream this weekend.
yeah, this is the first time it was shown. It was the first time I'd seen it was when it was on stream this weekend.
Yeah, so they have given us rough information of when the next 3 or when the like it seems like the last 3. So there's nine North American regionals, it looks like. They have all of them listed here alongside the ICs. Kind of like this is like the North American circuit plus the big international events, the 3 ICs plus Worlds. They have the 6 regionals that they have announced in here, but then they have 3 TBA spaces for I mean, they're going to be regionals. So 9 regionals total in America slash Canada, and it is nice that they at least gave us like a rough time frame, right? Because it looks like they're placed roughly in between events, so we know that there will be a regional before London, but after Toronto, like
It's
that.
so interesting though. Like I wonder what is preventing them from just releasing the information at this point because they kind of
It
like
is
shadow
weird.
dropped Vancouver and Milwaukee, right? So it almost makes me wonder if it's like not 1,000% finalized or
It
they're
feel,
like still trying to finalize event space or something like that. Who knows?
I mean, it feels like they shadow dropped a lot. Like there's a lot. There's regionals in Mexico happening this year. Um, like a lot of more European stuff dropped as well, and like if, I feel like I missed an official announcement. Maybe it was. I assume they would have. There was a tweet probably on Play Pokemon or something, but I just kind of heard about it because like someone mentioned in my chat, and then if you go to like PTCG Legends right now and look at upcoming events. By the way, anyone who's interested in figuring out, and I've had multiple people, dude. I can't believe they didn't like do something better about this season. I've had multiple people come into my Twitch stream and be like, "Hey, Azul, how do I register for events?" And I'm like, you just go to PDCG Legends or Limitless and you click on upcoming events. And that's like the best place to find like a central hub of the events, when they're happening, when registration or other information becomes available, but then also go like follow Arcane on Twitter. And every single time the people were like, okay, I've looked into some of that. This seems super convoluted. Like, why is this the process? And these are people who are like trying to go to their first major event for like the first time, coming to my Twitch chat and be like, hey, Azul, how do I do this? And it's like I explain it to them where they can get this information, but it is like super. You have to like piece it together yourself. It's like you're putting together a puzzle, solve the mystery. Um, but yeah, there's a lot announced. Like, and we know there's 3 more American and Canada regionals on the way. Who knows how much more for Europe and Latin America? And I don't know what's announced for Australia so far. Is it just Brisbane or Perth and Brisbane, or maybe all 3 of theirs have been announced? Um, I assume they're only getting 3 again this season. I guess they could get more, but I guess maybe not.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think
Yeah, a
it
lot
is
of
cool to
this
see the announcement around the Mexico regionals, though. You think you might make your way down to one of those? That's pretty sweet to see.
I would maybe be down. I don't know where either of these I don't know where either of the locations are
Mm,
for these ones. But the one people have been asking me out is the second one,
let's see, Monterey.
Monterey. Okay, wait,
Dude,
no.
whoa,
I don't know
really?
I don't know how to pronounce it, but I have heard of Monterey before. So that makes sense. And the other one, Merida. I don't know how to
Yeah,
pronounce it.
so Monterey, it looks like it's kind of
Monterey.
near. It's not too far from the Texas border.
Oh, really?
Well, I guess I don't know. Let's see. I guess directions. How far is it from Laredo, Texas? 3 hours.
Okay.
So it's not
That's
super
pretty
close,
close.
but
Yeah, I don't know. I maybe make my way down there. I'm not like yeah, like for I mean the I'm probably not going to do LAIC, but we'll see. So my first event this season might be Sacramento, and then from there I'm not like
it's weird that
tied
it's
to doing
not
anything.
not in. There's not one in Mexico City. There was one in Mexico City for years, right?
A couple, I don't know actually how many years it was. I went to it like 2 or 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
I don't know if like before 2015, 2016, if they had a regional championship consistently in Mexico City. I'm actually not sure. I don't know for
Merida
sure.
is like in southern Mexico, like kind of near Cancun, or it's like across that peninsula in Yucatan from Cancun.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not
So it's
like
pretty deep in Mexico, like closer to South America than it is to North America, or like to closer to like Guatemala than it is to the U.S.
yeah, I think the events that I go to this year will just kind of be more what weekend they fall on more so than where they're located. Of course, like Sacramento is like really close to me, so I'm gonna go to that. But I probably want to go to Stockholm just to be cool to try and defend my title. So
Mm,
back to
back to
back
back.
Stockholm. So like that for that reason, I'll try and go out there. But besides that, I'm not really tied to like any location. Why? So I don't know. Yeah, maybe I will make my way down to Mexico this season. But yeah, it seems like a decent amount of stuff has been announced. It feels like it kind of flew under the radar though, right? Like I don't know. To me, at least, that's the way it seems. It's kind of like it was just like it just got put out there, and like didn't feel like there was that big of a deal made out of it. But maybe I like missed that whole talk about it on Twitter or the announcements on Twitter when they happened. So, but yeah, a lot of the information out there is for the dates of it seems like most major events this season. The other information, registration, when is registration open? Uh, Keep up to date with PDCG Legends or Limitless in their upcoming tab. Follow RK9 on Twitter, and then follow. Uh, what is the event? What is the TO now? Today's event?
Gaming Generations.
Yeah. So Gaming Generations for America and Canada events, and then wait, who is even doing the European events? Do they have like do they have like only one TO now themselves?
I have no clue what's going on in Europe, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm actually curious about that now because I mean I assume it's not Gaming Generations also doing the European ones.
I would
Um,
imagine no.
I feel like this was mentioned somewhere. I think it was maybe the 22 tournament one. I don't know. Maybe it is split between multiple still over in Europe.
Yeah,
can't.
2022 tournaments. What a terrible name for,
Yeah, it's so bad.
for
Oh,
an
it looks like they are doing
organizer.
stuff though, right?
Yeah, it looks like it is 2022 tournaments. Yeah, it was a great idea if, like, you were only gonna be hosting tournaments in the year
They should have
2022.
stopped, bro. They had a good run. Call it quits at 2022.
I honestly don't
Um,
know that they had a good run.
I'm actually yeah, Europeans. Did they have a good run? Who had the best run? They're still running, I guess. They're 2 years overdue, but they're still running.
They are still
Um,
running.
but yeah, it looks like are they doing all of them though? I see they tweeted something
Yeah,
about Gdansk,
and we got something here about Stuttgart.
Stuttgart. Oh, maybe they are doing all of them.
Yeah, well, nope, we are proud to host 3 major tournaments on
Oh, okay.
behalf of TPCI this year.
Okay, so it is gonna be split up between multiple different what is it? Champions something? One of them is like champions.
What are you talking about?
The European TOs, something champions.
Play the
They're calling.
champions,
Is that what it is?
something like that, maybe? I don't know, dude.
That sounds familiar, what you said. But yeah, go find those Twitter accounts and then follow them if you want to keep up to date with when registration's dropping. Usually it is 6 to 8 weeks. Registration opens up like 6 to 8 weeks before the events happen. So if you haven't seen anything yet and it's getting close to that date, definitely be looking out for it. And there will be like a week or a couple days leading up to the registration actually happening. There'll be something being said somewhere. But it is unfortunate that you have to kind of do a little bit of digging on Twitter, especially if you're someone who's not in the scene that in that way on Twitter. So
Yeah. It's the only option we got at the moment, so it is what it is.
yeah.
But yeah, back over to Baltimore, right? Tournament that happened this past weekend. This was the first regional championships using the new Pokemon tournament structure. So differing from last season, right? Where last season you needed a record of at least 6-2-1 to go from day one into day two of the tournament. Now you need a record of at least 7-2 or 603, which is 21 match points. You get 3 match points for a win, 1 match point for a tie, and then you would play 4 rounds of Swiss on day two. Um, so I guess some like let's talk about maybe what some pros and cons seemed like from this because yeah, this is kind of a tough one for neither of us to be at. I feel like because a lot of stuff it feels like went down in Baltimore, but there were 129 players in day two, which is a pretty steep decrease from what it was in the previous seasons. Is this a good or a bad thing?
Um, I don't know if it's like inherently good or bad. Like one of the ideas of theoretically like reducing how many players are in play two is to try and limit it to people who can still only have a chance of making top eight, right? So it's like if you made day two, it's because you can make top eight. And but I think in the system we had last season, if you made day two, you would have to go 6-0 at 6-1 at like NAIC or something to make top eight. You
Yeah.
could still make it, but this is just like kind of getting to the point faster, I guess, by having less rounds, right? It's
Yeah,
like,
now you have to go 4-0 if you come in
yeah,
at 7-2.
yeah, you do. You're right. Yeah, you do literally have to go 4-0. You have to go 4-0, and you'll make asymmetrical cut. Maybe be a little bit of a higher seed depending on resistance. I'll be like guaranteed to be make asymmetrical, but it just kind of gets to the point faster. It's like the same thing. Still have to go undefeated, but now we're playing 4 rounds to figure out those players instead of 6. So we're just kind of cutting out 2 rounds, but the end result is the same. You still have to go undefeated, right? So, and I wouldn't overly think about it as cutting out 2 rounds completely because we do have the asymmetrical cut now, which I don't know, it's like effectively like a round that you don't have to play to then win further. So it is kind of like losing 1 round, it feels like overall. And I actually don't think the day two part of the system really has too many major issues. And I talked to a couple players who made day two at Worlds recently and made day two at Baltimore. And they were kind of like, day one feels bad for the system, but day two is kind of like whatever. You're kind of in the same situation you were in last season, where it's like you
Yeah.
either start at 7-2 or 6-1 like last season. You have to win all of them. And if you don't, you're somewhere in between where it's like if you go 3-1, then you'll get top 32 maybe or something like that, which is
Maybe.
like, yeah, but it's like the same thing. That was the same thing last season. So it's like, it's not that big of a difference. It just kind of cuts to the point quicker.
Sure.
Um,
And you did mention one other thing there, and that is asymmetrical cut. That is something that also happened at regionals for the first time ever. So everyone who had the same number of match points as the eighth seed made it into cut. So 33 match points was the cutoff, which is a record of 11-2 at least to make it into top cut. And then those players had to have like a playoff, a play in round.
Yeah.
into the final top 8
If
cuts.
you actually wanna pull up and I can get the tweet for you real fast because 'cause I'm sure a lot of people are a lot of people are unfamiliar with, asymmetrical cut and actually don't fully understand how it works, so I'm gonna pull up I'll share this tweet with you real fast. Give it to you on Discord. Jake Gearhart put out a pretty good shout out to Jake, spreading good information about anything that doesn't have to do with cards, but misinformation when it comes to Iron Hands and, no, I'm joking. So yeah, shout out to Jake. But yeah, Jake made this like graph here of asymmetrical cut, and he actually explained it pretty well. What he came into my chat and was like, think about it as if you cut to top 32, but you only take the players who are in top eight or have the same amount of match points as people in top eight, and then you just kind of push everyone forward until they hit someone.
Yeah.
And that's what he kind of that's what he kind of made this graph here of like a top 32 cut, except we don't have enough people to fill out all the top 32 spaces, so people get buys until they hit someone effectively.
I mean, what happens though when you theoretically get to over 32 people who have the same amount of match points as top 8?
Well, it caps at top 32. Yeah.
Oh, is that like a thing? Like
Yeah, so it's top 8 asymmetrical cut at
up to
that
top
up to
32.
top 32, yeah.
Okay.
We would need a lot of players to have more than 32
It,
players with the
it would
same amount
probably
of match.
happen in VGC more so than it would happen in TCG.
Yeah, yeah, probably. But yeah, so anyone who doesn't know, to explain it a little bit further, basically, if ninth seed has as many match points as eighth seed, ninth seed plays eighth seed. If 10th seed has as many match points as eighth seed, 10th seed plays seventh seed, and so on and so forth until you fill up a potential top 32 bracket. So the higher seeds, there is a reason to be a higher seed now. In previous seasons in the Pokemon TCG, there was basically no reason because being first seed, you're not like theoretically, who knows if you'll actually be better than the eighth seed, right? Like there's not really like, and with the variance in the game overall, like there's not actually like really an advantage to being first seed versus eighth seed. There could be an advantage being a seed over a different seed to simply dodge a matchup, but you'd have to like know what seed they're going to land in. And instead of being first seed, maybe you'd want to be fifth seed so you can play against fourth seed instead of sixth seed or whatever. Um, but now there's actually an advantage for being first seed because if there's 15 people with the same amount of match points as eighth seed, then first seed gets a buy, is the only person to get a buy. And the bigger the tournaments, the more people that are going to have as many match points as someone as eighth seed going into the top eight. So, well, it'll be interesting as we get to the bigger tournaments like EUIC and NAIC, like how many people actually end up in this asymmetrical cut. That'll be
Mm,
interesting to see.
yeah,
And
definitely. I mean, I think it would be hard for us to have too much more than like 14, maybe 16 at some, but
yeah, the really big ones we'll be able to push for something. I mean, who knows how much space they'll give us for NAIC and UIC? We could definitely have 3K. We
that
easily
is
have
true.
3K
It
players.
depends on how many players we have overall in the tournament. Because like the more players you have, the more people there are that can get to the X and two record
Yeah.
realistically, right?
So I like asymmetrical. We effectively have asymmetrical cut for like day one to day two. If you get to 7-2, you're in cut. If you have as many match points as the eighth seed, you get to play in top cut, right? So I like those breakpoints for like being like, if you just achieve this, you get to advance to the next round. So I like asymmetrical cut for that reason. So I'm happy that we have it now in the TCG. I think this would actually one thing I brought up in the past is, and they do this in Magic. Y'all know I'm a big fan of Magic and what they do, but in Magic, higher seed gets to pick first or second going into game one, going into the match. I think that would be good to still have in the TCG, despite the like current advantage of being the higher seed. One of the things that kind of sucks about asymmetrical cut, this is like a negative of it, is let's say you're seventh seed and you have 35 match points, and eighth seed has 34 match points. Well, if ninth seed and 10th seed also have 34 match points, even though you have 35 match points at seventh seed, you actually still have to play in the asymmetrical play-in round, even if you have another match point than eighth seed. And this is something that's the big thing that people were confused on. A lot of people thought that the people who had as many match points as eighth seed were
Mm,
the only people who played in the asymmetrical cut, but it's not how it works. Asymmetrical cut just kind of expands downward and upward as
yeah,
more people are added to it. It's not everyone with 34 match points play against each other. The people with 35, 36, even 37, they could also be playing in the asymmetrical play. And so I think giving, an advantage to being the higher seed would be a good thing. So I'd still like to see them add that to these tournaments to give being a higher seed be a bigger advantage and be like, if you are the higher seed going to asymmetrical cut or any cut round, you pick first or second going to that first game. So it's the only thing I like to see change. And that's like the negative of asymmetrical cut. Overall, a positive, but there are pros and cons to most things.
Of course. And then one thing I did see people talking about on Twitter was the fact that you could go from a round 13 winning in, right? You play this match, you win, you're in top cuts and lose, and then you bubble out of top 32, which means you get
Yeah.
$0, zero money, which is pretty crazy. Like JW, I think, was the example of this, right? He played Rowan in the last round. If he wins, he's in top cut, loses, he gets 33rd. And then Rowan, would be the inverse of that. Maybe would have not been 33rd, depending on resistance. And then another thing that factors into all of this, I'm pretty sure that different from last season's structure, your resistance does carry over from day one to day two,
Yeah.
which is a change from last season. So
Which I actually don't know if you know the answer to, which is actually a question that I had in my chat had, and I never got an answer to this. Can you play the same person now in day one and day two because the resistance carries over? No, can you not now? I assume you
I
can
don't know.
still.
Did it happen to anyone?
Oh, true. We could kind of check. Look at the high seeds because theoretically,
Yeah.
if they were like one was 9-0 and I don't know if you can play against the same person now because yeah, resistance from day one to day two does carry over. Which I don't think that's like because like that happens for everyone. So it's like not neutral. It's not like negative. Or I guess like theoretically though, if you're coming from a worse start, like 0-2, but you still get to 7-2, your resistance is going to be. Actually, I don't know. Maybe it just kind of evens out. Maybe it's still like not truly all random, but maybe it just evens out in the end. I'm trying to like think about how that could like if you start 7-0 versus 0-2, but I guess you shouldn't start 0-2. That's kind
I
of why you
imagine
should
you
start
actually
better.
can't.
Yeah, that would be my guess because yeah, if the resistance is carrying
And
over,
just
I'm sure
kind of looking
something.
at some of these results here, I've not seen a single name repeated on anyone's list. So I don't think that you can. That is pretty interesting. That is a change.
Yeah, it's not a big change, and I think it's like fine overall.
Sure.
And it does. I think it does make sense for the resistance to carry over because there was so few rounds in day two. A lot of people's resistances would look exactly the same with 4 rounds, right? Like,
Yes.
so there'd be a lot more ties on resistance. So this kind of just tries to avoid that overall. I feel like is the reason to do that because there's so many less rounds in day two, or it is 50% less rounds, so it is a decent amount.
Yeah.
I mean, there's one more thing I want to mention. Oh yeah, and shout out to Jake. This is where I originally saw this idea from, and I like it. I think it would be good if pricing was maybe based on number of players in tournament, with depending on how many match points you get. So, like for JW's case, maybe instead of prize paying out to top 32, top 32 pricing pays out to everyone with 30 match points instead. So that way you lose your winning into top eight, but you still got 30 match points. You still get top 32 pricing, and make match point as the break points for prizing, and maybe even championship points um instead of like literally being in the top 32
Yeah.
because that feels pretty bad to yeah go from your winning to outside top 32. It was happening last season though, I feel like as well, maybe not quite. Maybe you still ended up at least top 32 if you lost your winning into top 8, but
It happened at
this
Worlds.
yeah. And actually
People
there's a
lost their win and ins to top 8 at Worlds, and then but it was this system, right? It was this current system.
Yeah, and there was actually an interesting discussion that had come up leading into this event, and I think after this event or around this event as well. It's like, and I actually have my answer, so I'm curious what your answer is, because I haven't seen it. Um, who do you think had a more successful tournament?
Yeah, where was this poll? I'll see if I can pull it up. I remember seeing it.
Uh, Lee was I want to say Liam Halliburton, Bradner. Bradner replied to it. I don't know if Liam was the first person to put it out there, but then Bradner like, did like a follow up.
Yeah, continue with the question.
Yeah. So the question is just like who has the most successful tournament? A player. Oh, if you scroll up, there it is right there. You just passed it on Liam's right there. So it was
Oh,
Xander
it was
Bennett who
Xander
put it out
Bennett. Yeah, yeah,
eventually.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, continue.
Who had a more successful tournament? Player A, who loses a win into top 8, and let's even go a little bit further than Xander's example, lands outside top 32, just like JW had. Or player B wins their last round and ends up in top 16, but never had a chance of making top cut. Which player had a more successful tournament run? Chip, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, so I know your answer and I actually do see it right here. It's A because you value so highly the like potential of playing for the win, right? And I see that and I don't necessarily disagree with that. But also at the same time, like player B in this instance literally had a better record at the end of the tournament than player A did, right? So while maybe they didn't have a shot at making top cuts. I mean, they're coming away with more prizing. They're coming away with more championship points. They had a better tournament. They won more games.
Yeah, so I
So
would
I can understand both sides, but I mean,
yeah.
I think I would just say player B. They had the better tournament record. They had the better tournament.
So I would expand on I want to like, I've actually my thought process expanded on this a little bit. I would say another reason it's player A is because I think their preparation for the tournament, not 100% was better, but their, like, proof of concept is better in the fact that they had a win it into top 8.
Well, I mean,
So
that's just not
no.
necessarily true.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. For sure, it definitely potentially isn't. But if they are consistently like, and then another example, I reached out, I like thought out a little bit further. This, if you took 10 tournaments in a row and both players replicated the exact same result every time, you would definitely say player is the better player. And once again, like their preparation is leading to a more successful result in terms of the goal of winning the tournament. Like if 10 tournaments in a row, player
Right.
A
But
replicated
you're
that and
not
player
running the
B
same
replicated that.
tournament time and time again. You're running one tournament. You only get one shot at each given event. And there's so
Yeah, of
much
course.
variable in any Pokemon tournament, right?
Yeah, but the
Of
player who's putting themselves in a position more often to make top 8, their
but
preparation
we're not
is
talking about more
theoretically.
often. We're not talking about more often. We're talking about one tournament.
Yeah, sure, but, like, that's the only thing you can do to prove the potential of your preparation being better. Like, I would
So
say
okay,
on
hold on. Okay, how about this?
average.
Let's say player A in this instance, it's their first time ever making day two at a tournament.
Sure,
Okay, and player B is you.
sure.
Player
I'm
A
not
is the
saying
better player. Player A had the better tournament.
preparation might have been better. I would say on average, player A's preparation and their time and investment in the game was of a higher caliber, a higher standard, like, a higher standard.
I just don't think you can say that definitively like that.
Well,
Only a
not
Sith
depending on
deals in
average. That's why I
absolutes,
said
buddy.
on average.
Only a Sith deals in
On
absolute.
average. On average, player A's preparation to excel and become a better Pokemon player was better.
But
That's all we can work off as averages.
the question isn't also who is the better Pokemon player. It is who had a better tournament.
No, yeah, but I expanded on it better. I've expanded on it more just like in my thought process
Oh
of
yeah,
like,
of course.
who would I
You've
consider.
improved the question that was
Yeah.
posed.
I would
How great of
say,
you.
yeah, I would say player A on average is gonna be the better player, and their preparation is gonna have been better because they got themselves to a point in the tournament where they could have progressed further, right?
Yeah, but you know, player A won a few $1,000s and more championship points and had more match points at the end of the day than player A.
I mean player B, you said player A. But
Well,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
But
yeah,
no, but
player B.
and once again, but like I would predict that player A will probably have more success in the future as well. Like on average, they will. Just because they are getting their result versus player B's result. And there was actually another the person who had actually a good follow-up question was Liam. If you click back real fast. Right
Yeah.
there. Who had a more successful in Liam's breakdown, player A, they went they were 5-1 and ended up 5-3-1, so they lost their winning in theoretically, right? Or player B, they were started 3-3 and ended 6-3. Who do you think had a more successful tournament in this one?
The player who had more match points at the end of the day and had a better finish. They
Yeah.
may not be the better Pokemon player. They
I
may not
can
have more long-term success, but they had the better tournament. They finished higher.
yeah, I mean, I guess that's like where where my thought process goes is like you're proving that your preparation meant more.
The
So it's like
question isn't
you've like
about who is
no.
better.
No, but that is a form of success. Like your success of not being better, but like your preparation was better. That's like proving the success
Sure,
of your
sure.
preparation. So to me, that's more
I'm not gonna s
successful.
player A may be a more successful Pokemon player long term than player B. Player A may
No, but
be a
even
better.
not even long term or short term. In that tournament, I think they were more successful. Even just the one tournament, they were more successful because they achieved like a higher standard for like their preparation.
We should ask JW if he feels more successful being at 33rd than, you know, who Charlie Lockyer, who got top 16.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Did he feel more successful?
And I guess, like, for me specifically, like, that I would feel more successful in my tournament if I made it to if I winning into top 16 means, like, nothing to me as a competitor because my goal is always just to win. So, like, losing my top 8 would always feel better than winning up
I
to top
think
16
I think
personally.
you focus a little too hard on that because yes, your goal should always be to win, but I think an acceptance of the reality of the variance of Pokemon tournaments should it be that that is not always realistic.
Well,
And
yeah, of
so any
course.
given tournament, you should just take every round, round by round, try to do your best in every single round. You can only
Yep.
beat the person that's in front of you. It doesn't matter,
Sure.
what else is going on at the tables around you or what other people's match points and all those things are. But if you just beat the person in front of you at any given round, at the end of the tournament, wherever you end up is where you end up.
There's not that much variance in Pokemon, though. Like,
There's not that. I mean, but there it is a part of the game.
of course, of course. But,
I
like,
mean, I'm
it's
not
just
saying
proof
I
of
don't think I think okay, so this is an interesting
Go ahead, go
conversation.
ahead.
This is an interesting conversation because I I definitely think variance is a pretty big part of Pokemon tournaments. But I don't think that variance is the determining factor is a determining factor over other things as to who does or
Yeah,
doesn't see success at a tournament, right?
I agree, I agree.
Yeah, like I but it definitely is a big part of tournaments, like who
I
you
would
get
never
paired
say
into,
big.
the it just is. It just is. Like yeah, I'm not and not variance in a way that uh in a way that it will always have a massive impact, but it is a big enough part that it does have an impact for sure. Like we have these Lugia players getting into top cut, right? What if they
You're just calling out all the Lugia
what
players.
what if no, they're
We know you got lucky, bro. We know you opened Ultra Ball double Archeops more than every other
right,
Lugia
yeah.
player.
But it's like there's also matchups, right? There's opening hands. Like there's just so many things that can happen in any given tournament that you don't have control over. More often than not, though, the better player ends up winning because it is not the determining factor in the game,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, that's why I think it's just a waste to bring it up. Like, obviously, there's variance involved, but it doesn't matter to ever bring it up. Like, Rahul literally just got back to back asymmetrical top cuts, right? Top 8 here, got ninth, or lost the play in asymmetrical at Worlds. Like, I mean, it's hard to be more consistent than that. Um,
Yep. Same with Ian.
I guess it was always open. Yeah, Ian's right there as well. Uh, Henry, top 8 NAIC, had a lackluster Worlds performance. Boom, top back at it with another top 8. Three majors in a row. Top 8, not top 8, top 8. Like, I think this tournament almost proves how little variance there is in the Pokemon TCG and how much your preparation and play matters so much more. And I think getting to your winning in proves that your preparation and play is progressing. Like, it proves like that's more successful. That means you're doing something right. It's proof of that. Whereas the other thing is like, you went up to top 16, you never even contention for top 8. It doesn't prove anything. It proves less. Like, it's less successful overall in that
Sure.
aspect of the game.
Let me ask you
Maybe
this though. Let me ask you
Go ahead.
this. So, I mean, Rahul first seed going into top cut, right? Obviously had a great tournament.
So many double chops, ultra balls, bro. There had to be.
So
I'm just
many.
saying.
Right, right. But let's say rounds 1, 2, 3, he plays against Miraidons. Doesn't beat a single one.
Like that, the variance of that, like, okay, so that's why, like, Pokemon's like how much you like judge a player's skill has to go over multiple tournaments. But yeah, it could
Interesting.
happen.
Yeah, over multiple tournaments, not just one specific tournament, right?
Not just one specific tournament.
Yeah.
But but like that's still, is that like a point against my argument? I wouldn't chalk up a player's performance to one tournament, but I also wouldn't. I also would like if a player. I mentioned this the other day on my stream. If a player
But I'm saying
wins,
that that's so you just talk about how variance doesn't play a big part.
I think just bringing it up is just irrelevant because it's like in like the outcome of like a player's career, it's just not relevant. The outcome of I think variance levels out over probably 2 major tournaments. Like, I think if you just literally go to 2 major tournaments, if you do not, like, theoretically, any player playing at maximum efficiency should be able to at least get to 1 win in 2 major tournaments, I think.
Mhm.
But I think that's the ceiling in Pokemon that I currently see is you should, over 2 major tournaments, you should get to a win in for a top 8 at least. So it could be like you could miss day 2, the first event, the next event, you should be able to get to like a top 8 winning in. And if you don't, it's coming down to your preparation and your play. Like that's going to be the factor.
So the
Um,
people who are preparing the best and who are the best at the game will find themselves in that spot in 1 out of 2 tournaments.
yeah, maybe 2.5 or something like that. But it's like 2 to 3 tournaments. You should be able to pull that off for sure. I think without a doubt. And then I think there could be a little bit higher of a ceiling than that. Like you could look at like it is like for the current ceiling in the game because like there's only so many people who are reaching that ceiling, or getting close to it. Like obviously, Tord is someone to call out, who's there, right? So, and we see Tord getting pretty close to that, if not better than that. He's definitely up there. His day two performance here obviously wasn't great, but I mean, he was there and he was in it for a little while to like push for another top eight here. So, yeah, 2.5 to like 3 tournaments you should be able to replicate a winning in for a top eight, and then like other like it could be like top 16, winning into top eight. Like it doesn't have to just be bomb out into like potential top eight. But I think that's definitely in the current landscape of the game, and I think to get more competitive and more people push towards the ceiling, that will be harder to do because you have more people playing that much better, innovating that much more. But for the current landscape of the competition, 2.2 to 3, somewhere in there,
Sure.
in that range. But I mean, I don't I guess, like, I just don't I guess, like, another thing for me is, like, um, I just care about winning. I don't see the money ever. It's, like, never a thing I see or care about, like, at all for competing in these tournaments. It just does not affect my motivation or drive at all. Winning is the only thing that matters. So, I know that's a big thing a lot of people bring up. It's like, "Oh, someone walked away with 2K, someone didn't." Like, I just those numbers don't matter to me. Once I'm out of top 8 contention, I kinda check out. As long as I'm in top 8 contention, I'm locked in. Um, it's just about the dub to me. That's it. So I think
Yeah, I mean,
that's probably
you're
where
without a
I'm
doubt in the minority there, like
yeah, of course. No, that's what I'm saying. So, that's probably where I miss a little bit of, like, when people call player B having a more successful tournament. I'm like, I don't know. It seemed like you were further away from having a chance to win the tournament. How could you have a more successful tournament?
Mhm. Yeah, and it's an interesting discussion. I mean, I think you could find some similarities between like this and like maybe like a poker tournament, right? So let's say someone, loses in the poker tournament and you know, 20th place or something like that. They had a really big stack and then they got unlucky and like they, had the second best hand versus the best hand, right, possible or something like that. Like along those lines. But then someone else who has a smaller amount of chips in the tournament, they're able to kind of skirt by for a few rounds, watch a few more people lose out of the tournament. Um, then that person ends up like making more money and cashing and having a higher finish, even though they do eventually, lose out of the tournament. You could say the person that busted out earlier with more chips, that they like they didn't necessarily have the better tournament, even though they were theoretically in a better position to win, right?
Yeah.
But I guess I mean at that point we're kind of just like comparing two things that are different, right? Pokemon and poker.
Yeah. I mean, there's probably some comparisons in, like, sports and stuff as well where you could, like, draw some similarities, to argue one way or the other for sure. They definitely exist out there.
Yeah, like
Um
which team had a better okay, yeah, for like the NFL or something, right? Which team had a better season? The team that made it into the playoffs with a an 8-9 record and made it to the, NFC or AFC championship game, or the team that, was I don't know, 11 and 7 in the season, right? They had a better season, but they lost in the first round of the playoffs, right?
I mean, you could even say they were undefeated, right? You could say they were undefeated, lost first round. The other one makes it to
The championship
the
game.
the championship game. I mean, I would say the championship game team had the better season.
Interesting.
But there's like proof of for the other team though. There's proof something's working if you went undefeated, right? Like, something's working, but you still got to clutch up in the playoffs, right? That's why Brady's the goat. Clutch.
Well, maybe we should take a moment now to actually talk about what happened at the
Well,
tournament.
hold on. There is one more thing to
Oh
mention,
my
and this is actually
goodness.
the biggest controversy
Oh,
is
sure.
day one. We talked about day two. We talked about asymmetrical cut, but day one is where people have the most problem with the new system because you have to go 7-2 to make day two now instead of 6-2-1, which you could get through with a tie. So people were making gentlemen's agreements, and for anyone who doesn't know what a gentleman's agreement is, it's basically like if we get to game three and there's no winner, let's decide, do you want to decide this game by other means? Who's ever drawn the most prize cards, whoever has like the more dominant board state.
Mhm.
So that way there's a winner. Um, Overall in the match, and you both don't kind of feel like you're getting screwed over. And generally, people like to make these gentlemen's agreements either at the beginning of the match or going into game three. You don't make them like kind of after the match has basically been resolved because then it feels a little bit awkward to do it.
Mhm.
Because ties mean less now, right? Because you have to have 7-2 to make day two. They're not worthless because once you make day two, I'm sure JW wishes he had a tie instead of a loss, so he didn't end up
Sorry
outside
that we're
of day
bringing you
two.
up so much, JW.
It's just a perfect example for everything we're talking about. So they're not completely useless, but we see like for the sake of trying to get to top 8, they don't really matter that much because it'll probably consistently be 11-2 that makes cut, which means ties are just not that relevant to actually make cut. And like you'd rather like go into game 3 being like I'm the better player, I'm the more prepared player, so I think I'll be able to put myself in a situation where I should be ahead on board state, ahead on prize cards over my opponent. So I want to make a gentleman's agreement. And both players should feel that way if they're competitive. So people are making these gentlemen's agreements super early in the tournament, and from the players I talked to, it felt bad. It felt bad to sit down round 2, round 3 and be like, "Hey, gentleman's agreement." Like before game 1 even starts, they're making these gentlemen's agreements. So that's definitely like a big shift in like the gameplay now. And it sounds like it's not super fun.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can definitely see just looking at these results from Poke Data, um, that there was like absolutely an impact here. So, like, if we look at some of the more recent regional championships, Orlando, 16% tie rate, Indianapolis, 17%, Los Angeles, 16%, Baltimore, 11%.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's definitely an impact here where people are either playing in a way to not tie, aka conceding games faster, or their play itself is increasing in pace, right?
Yep.
Or the gentlemen's agreements, like you mentioned, are happening. And I guess the question would be if, like, should Pokemon, in order to remove, because like I don't think anyone wants that. They don't want to sit down round two, round three, round four, have that have to be a discussion from there on out for the rest of the
Yeah,
tournament,
every
right?
single round.
Should we just go to a system where there are no ties?
Good question. And I guess like how would you fix that? Yeah, because one of the players I talked to about it, he said he regretted not making gentlemen's agreements as soon as round one.
Yeah.
And he ended up started doing it in round 2 or 3, but he's like, I should have just been doing it since round one. Like, there's no reason not to. It just makes the most sense. It's the most optimal way to see. It seems like it's the most optimal way to play the game. The big thing that I think ties hurts, and I don't think this is inherently like a super negative thing. Um, but control decks and stall decks, alternate win condition decks would take a big hit because you'd have to, if you get rid of ties, you'd have to have some kind of tiebreaker, right? Which
Mhm.
would be, or I guess double game loss. If you're in game 3 and there's no winner, maybe a double game loss. Um, but the
I think that would
alternative
feel
would be,
kind of bad.
yeah, the alternative would be going back to something like we had before, where it was
Yeah.
like most prize cards wins, right? Who's ever had on prize cards or something like that wins.
It would have to be that, right? You couldn't make it like something that's subjective, like board state, whoever thinks they may win the game, right? You can do the current system, time plus 3 turns, and then whoever's ahead on prize cards wins the game. And it would have changed the way that you play sometimes, right? Um, like back in the day when I was competing at a tournament, I remember literally my opponent and I had a gentleman's agreement. And this was kind of back in the day whenever they were like, not officially, like, it wasn't like they were not allowed, but there was just like they just weren't talked about, you remember what
Yeah,
I'm yeah. But like a lot of people did it and stuff like that, right? We had a gentleman's agreement, and at this point, boards, like, people didn't really talk about board state. It was just like prize cards. It's kind of like what people
yeah,
went on. And my opponent and I had a gentleman's agreement. If you are ahead on prize cards in game 3 and we go to time, I will concede to you. And my opponent said yes, I will do the same thing. And I literally played in a way that was different than what I normally would have done because of the agreement that was in place, right?
yeah,
And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, right? It's kind of like an adjustment on the fly to the tournament system in place, right? It's
yeah.
just
But it
like a
feels
different
bad.
aspect.
It feels like there's probably a flaw with the tournament system if you have to make this aggressively, right? Whereas like round 2, you're like, all right, gentleman's agreement, round 3, gentleman's agreement, round 4, like every single round,
Yeah,
right?
but then would we call it a
And
flaw?
then
Would you call it a flaw if it wasn't a thing, right? Like, would you call it a flaw if
no, I don't think so. I think that would be
if
like,
the ties weren't a thing?
No, I don't think I would consider it a flaw of the it's just like whether or not you think ties are correct or incorrect would be the question at that point, right? Like,
Mhm.
does it make sense to have ties exist? I've enjoyed ties since they've existed in the Pokemon TCG. I think they felt fine or felt like an improvement overall. I'm not like inherently against going against them. I haven't really thought about it that much. They just kind of felt good since we've had them. But if we lose them, as a competitor, I would just kind of adapt. And I don't think it would be inherently like overly negative to remove ties. The big question would just be like, what do we go for as far as a tiebreaker goes? Like, I assume if you won game one and your opponent doesn't win game two, then you should probably win the set. Like that
Yep.
game should never count. So that way, stall decks and control decks could still exist under that rule, right? And it would only be if you're in game three, that's where some kind of prize card tiebreaker would be initiated. Um, so I mean, I'm not against it. I've liked ties, but if we go back to that, that makes more sense for if we're going to keep this true Swiss system around, then maybe just kind of removing ties from the equation is kind of the best way to go about it.
I would say in the current tournament structure with like how many players we have, like just looking at this quick comparison, right? So Swiss ends for VG with 650-ish players after 11 rounds. Their top cut was 21 players, 27 match points was the cutoff. Just at Baltimore, which was a tournament that did have ties, in round 11, we had 38 players with 27 match points. And if there was no ties, it would have been much more than that. Obviously, we would have a couple more rounds to kind of whittle some of this out. But I mean,
Yeah,
we would definitely see like 32 and probably even more than 32 players get to that match point threshold of whatever the eighth seed has
yeah, yeah. That's
if
true.
there
I
was
mean,
no ties.
maybe you just make top cut X and two then. At that point, does top cut just become X and two? Like you're just like we change that part about it as well? And it's like no ties, cut is X and two.
Yeah,
That's
maybe it would
basically
have
what
to
it
be.
is.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is right now, right? So, I don't know if that would be a terrible
It
thing.
is. Yeah, it's the exact same as what it would be right now, right?
Yeah. So oh, I guess that yeah, I mean, that literally is what it is right now. So, it wouldn't be
And
that many
except it
players.
does
It would be
cap at the
more.
top 32. It does cap at the top
Yeah, it
32.
does copy so I guess that'd be, like, the extension. We'd extend past top 32 potentially, which I think would make sense. Um, but I guess we're kind of far away from that being, like, a huge problem where we're looking at, like, 128 players, top cuts or something like that
Mhm.
ridiculous. So, but that's the biggest gripe I feel like a lot of players had with the tournament structure, and it does sound kind of like a drag, kind of unfun, to go through that process so early in tournaments. When you're just trying to sit down and play games of Pokemon, and only when like you have put yourself in a position where you need to worry about it, that's when you kind of worry about it. But now you have to like worry about gentlemen's agreement so early, and that's what I heard was like some of the reasons for rounds taking so long was players trying to solve their gentlemen's agreements. The time is up, three turns are up, they're tied on prize cards, or they decided board state and they're trying to figure it out. Um, so that's also possibly an issue. But I feel like that might just be like if we stick with the system, that will definitely be a little bit of growing pains of players like learning how to just more quickly
Sure.
move past their gentleman's agreement and just get on with the tournament. So, and we might even see like staff start to crack down on that more, where it's like you have 30 seconds. I'll give you 30 seconds. If you
You gotta
guys don't
make a
pick someone,
decision.
it's going
Yeah.
to be a tie. Yeah. So I think we'll see like staff react to that in a certain way as well.
Quick little limitless Swiss calculator does show that with the amount of players that were in Baltimore, 2307, with no ties, 0% tie rate, there would have been 25.9 cumulative players with 33 or more match points, and 33
That's a
match
lot
points would have been
more.
the cutoff. So it is quite a bit more, but it is not
Yeah.
top. It is not 32.
Not 32. Not yet. But yeah, if we get to NAIC and it's 3,000 players, we're probably at 32. Oh,
Yeah, let's
actually,
see.
let's check.
Yeah, we can do that. And checking, and yeah, it would be
33.
33 players.
JW again with 33rd, not making cuts.
Jeez, poor
No.
J Dubs, man.
Dude, always
But
catching those
we would
L's.
have an extra Swiss round, right? Or no, the number for that is like
No.
4,000, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 4,000. Actually, just
Holy
put
cow.
4,000 in there. Let's see what happens.
It's like more than 4,000 though. It's like I'll just do
Yeah.
4,500.
Sheesh. 33,
Well,
106. Oh,
remember
plus one round.
it would be whoever's tied with 8th seed, right? So it would
Oh,
be
true, true, true.
36 match point players for this event.
So only 29 still. Okay. Only plus four players.
So we getting rid of
Man.
ties, buddy?
I don't know.
Or
I'm not inherently against it to be honest. Especially like looking at those numbers there. It's like we're just like play to like a effective 30 top 32 top cut or about that. Um They did, like, stream one thing they did with the stream is, like, they only streamed 2 rounds of day 2, which is kind of unfortunate. Would like to have seen the full 4, but they
Oh,
did
that
stream,
is a
like
bummer.
yeah,
Jeez.
they did stream 2 top 8 I think it was just 2 top 8, 1 top 4, 1 finals. So we got, like, 1 more top cut match, I guess. So, but I in this system, they once again did not stream either of the play-in matches, the asymmetrical matches, which I feel like that's exciting to see who is playing into top 8, who wins. Instead, they did what they did at Worlds, where they played one side of the top 8 bracket, and then they showed one of the asymmetrical matches after it completed going forward. Um, and then they moved on to top 4 from there. But I felt it just felt
Yeah, I
worse. Yeah.
agree. So, like, and like I told you, I think after Worlds is like the reason for that was in interest of like moving the tournament along, is how it
Yeah.
was explained to me. But I totally agree with you from the like what would be exciting to watch standpoint, right?
Yeah, I wanna see, like, the players play for their I mean, everyone else is playing for it as well, but, like, you get to see the 2 players or one of the matches from the players who are in the asymmetrical side of the bracket or part of the bracket first. I don't know. Weird to not get to see that again, but, I mean, at some point, they'll be forced to do it, right? At some point, we'll hit 15, 14 players, and they'll be like, "Well, now we're gonna do an asim round." But if you're gonna do that anyways at that point, why not make that a part of the thing to begin with? Not sure.
Well, you ready to start talking about the results from Baltimore?
Yep, let's do it.
Let's do it. So we'll start off by looking at the meta share. So right around 2,300 players, like we mentioned, and looking at the decks that were popular in day one of the tournament, we see Reggie Drago V Star at 17%, a bit of a fall off from the dominance it had at the World Championships, and Raging Bolt jumping way up to 15% meta share. Charizard falling just a little bit from its second place spot to third with 14%, Ancient Box at 9.3, and Lugia at 6.8.
Yeah, so Lugia is the biggest surprise to me. Like Raging Ball being that popular isn't. I guess it's a super top heavy meta, right? With those top 3 there,
It is.
and the Raging Ball being that popular, I guess it's a little. The biggest surprise to me is the drop off of Lugia. I thought Lugia would be like 12% for sure. I thought it was a pretty good play going into the tournament. Um, and yeah, I mean that's a surprise. We saw it be super successful though overall. I'm
Yeah, it
also
turns out
surprised
it was a
by
pretty good play for the tournament.
yeah. We also saw Ancient Box. I'm surprised by Ancient Box being this popular as well. Um, that was a surprise for me as
Yeah, I
well.
think it's a little crazy that you wouldn't have expected it to be this popular. I mean,
I thought it would be on the come up, but
I think I said 8% going in was like my prediction. So it was a little more
yeah,
popular than that for sure. But
said
like, dude,
7.
it's all anyone was talking about leading into the tournament. Like it was Ancient Box, Ancient Box, Ancient Box. You look at anyone who's winning a League Cup, they're winning it with Ancient Box. Like,
A deck this bad has never been talked about this much in the history of the Pokemon TCG.
what are you talking about? It was Dragapult last format.
True. That actually is true. I actually think Ancient Box is a better deck in this meta and like last meta than Dragapult was in last meta. So that's fair. That's fair. But the Dragapult talk fell off pretty fast. People keep bringing Ancient Box back. I don't know why, but it keeps making its way back. But let's look at the best of the rest. Because like some of the other decks that had decent success at Worlds, they weren't too far off. They were like the big ones to talk mentioned here are like the 5%ers. You got the Roaring Moon and the Miraidon. Guardy way down at 3%, which I think was pretty predictable. Um, and
It was a
then
pretty terrible Reggie Drago matchup.
yeah, unless you're playing the turbo build. And then the one thing that I was surprised by, because I thought it was a pretty good play as well going into this format, was the Iron Thorns. I didn't think it would be that low. I didn't think it would be like up from Worlds. It was 5% at Worlds, which is like pretty high for a deck like Iron Thorns. It won Worlds. I thought it would still stay around that 5%. I thought like it winning Worlds, more of a spotlight on it would be enough to kind of carry it through. But I guess like the fear of Ancient Box, it was the most talked about deck leading into the tournament, was probably why less people played it. And it does have a tough Ancient Box matchup, but I don't know. I was actually surprised it was this low overall, especially after winning Worlds.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit lower than I expected. And Snorlax holding strong at 2%. And Snorlax ended up having a really good tournament. And in part, that probably is because of the fall off of Lugia.
Yeah.
But I think one of the reasons we saw Snorlax, while it did have a good tournament, it didn't necessarily convert super well into cut compared to how well it did. Like, I mean, you see there's a decent amount of them here in the top 16. It's because Lugia was doing
Yeah.
very, very well in the tournament overall.
Yeah, the Lugia had the last laugh in that one. It's like, oh, Snorlax seems like a really good play, but the actual better play was Lugia, which Snorlax has a tough time against for sure. But yeah, Guardian ended up taking it all down, right? Henry Chow with the Gardevoir
Yep.
in the end, and it was a pretty unique build.
Definitely a unique build. I mean, the A-Spec choice in here is Secret Box. We see there's a Pheasantipity EX, Triple Bravery Charm, Pokemon League HQ as well, which we've seen, come up every once in a while in Gardevoir decks, but it's never. This is by far the most successful it has been in a Gardevoir deck. And there's a couple research in this list as well, which is something people haven't been playing in Gardevoir for quite a minute.
Yeah, the research is super turbo build, rare candies, only one dark energy, only one Dory. It feels like towards the end of
Mhm.
NAIC, everyone's like, how many Dories can I fit into my Guardy deck? And now it's like, how little Dory we can play. Yeah, I mean, you can't go less than one dark energy, one Dory. So, yeah, really cool build, really aggressive build, which the formats, the meta is pretty aggressive, right? Um, the Dragon Ball matchup is tough, so setting up fast is a big deal. I think Henry mentioned that in one of his interviews. Like he feels like the matchup is close when you're playing this kind of more aggressive build. It's a lot harder with the slower builds of Gardevoir. And there's a lot of other aggressive decks in the format as well, right? The Raging Bolts and stuff like that. Even though historically Guardy has like a good matchup against those decks, they can kind of outpace you if you are a little bit too slow. And we really got to see the aggressive options from this deck shine in some of Henry's matchups. The finals for sure,
Yeah.
and then I think even his matchup against Rowan in top eight, we got to see some of the more aggressive lines come to light and actually see some big plays happen through like playing the rare candies and stuff like that. So it's really cool to see like the full power of the deck be utilized throughout his run.
Yeah, honestly, like insanely massive props to Henry for this because I think a lot of people who have been playing Gardevoir probably just didn't even consider it for the format. They were like, we got a bad Dragapult matchup. We're just going to move on. We'll find something that's better to play. And he took time and found a way to make the matchup closer and then felt like, oh, this version of the deck is pretty good against the rest of the stuff. So, yeah, props to him
Yeah,
for finding something a bit more unique to do with his build.
yeah, definitely super super cool. I guess like one more thing we could mention actually before we go to like the last couple of results, we could mention the day two meta results because
Oh,
I
yeah, I do have that in the
yeah.
document, don't I?
Yeah, I forgot about it myself. But the biggest takeaway here is where did Raging Bolt go, bro? It's gone.
Yeah.
It's so funny that it completely disappeared. Lugia had a big come up, and then Regidrago kind of maintained. So did Ancient Box.
Yeah, and Lugia is one of the decks that does have a pretty good Raging Bolt matchup, right?
Yeah,
Like I think one of the reasons to play Raging Bolt going into this tournament would have been it has a good Drago matchup, and it's good against the other Turbo decks, right? It's pretty good against Roaring Moon, it's pretty good against Miraidon. But other than that, its Charizard matchup really not that great. Ancient Box not that great. Lugia pretty bad, honestly, of a matchup. So I think those things lead to Lugia. And then like speaking of meta as well, right? The things that Lugia has problems against, right? The biggest problems are the Miraidons and the Iron Thorns. And
yeah,
compared to what success we saw from them at Worlds, and maybe why people were scared off of playing Lugia in day one, they weren't actually that relevant in the tournament. And so that leads to Lugia being overall having such a high conversion rate.
yeah, yeah. Also, like, I guess not a huge. I mean, it's a little bit of a surprise. I'm surprised that Charizard seemed to have fallen so flat.
Hmm.
Because I don't think it has like truly terrible matchups into anything. And it
Yeah,
was
who's the
14.
highest finishing Charizard player even?
Sheesh, I didn't know it was this bad.
Yeah, Owen Rhodes at 39th place. Is that the
Not
best
in top
finish?
32. Yeah, that is. Sheesh. I thought it was at least going to be one in top 32.
Don't worry though, Owen, you still had a better tournament than any of these other people who were in top 32.
Well, we don't know if he lost a winning
That's true. I'm gonna
in.
check.
I would say this tournament run would be better if you lost a winning in. But yeah,
But no,
that
no
that
Charizard's in top 32 though. So Charizard had a worse tournament. Owen though, he had a better one.
um yeah, it's a little bit of a surprise. Like it pretty popular deck. Like Charizard's a good deck. Um, Good players chose to play it. Piper and Brent Thompson are the two that come to mind. They both made it on stream playing Charizard. They both won their matches on stream, but overall falling a little bit flat. Not even a top 32 finish from Charizard overall. So that was a little bit of a surprise, I guess, to see that end result for how popular it was. But
Hmm.
and I don't think Lugia is like the like where Snorlax maybe is like Snorlax definitely could have gone way further if Lugia didn't like have the tournament it did. Like Charizard's Lugia matchup is like fine. Like Charizard doesn't really have any terrible matchups. It's a lot of really close ones. I guess Stall's a bad matchup, um, but yeah, that's the only other one I want to point out. But yeah, the rest of the results, I mean, Lugia, Kieran,
Lugia really showed up big time.
yeah, Kieran gets second with a double rat build, 2-2 rat. Nice one thing to mention now these days, ever since Rahul popularized the 1-1 rat. But nothing super spicy in here either, right? Actually, like the big standout to me once I actually saw the match go down was the triple mist energy. Pretty good against Roaring Moon. Kieran did defeat the one turbo moon in top eight. And the mist energy were a pretty big deal for that one. So they would have definitely pulled their weight overall. But nothing that's just straightforward, consistent, right?
Yeah, pretty cool to see here as well on Limitless. They've now added the seniors results from these tournaments. So you can see here, second place, Jesse O played the same 60, one of Kieran's students.
Yeah, second place as well. What? No dubs. Only second places for this build, I guess. One thing I did want to mention, I did want to give Kieran some props. I feel like one thing that I think is cool to like talk about in the game is who is the best player who hasn't won a major yet. And I think it's like I think Bradner has a leg up on most players, but I think Kieran's pretty close behind now. Like consistently did pretty well last season. Started off this season pretty well. So Kieran's definitely a name to like put in that conversation as well.
I agree.
And we'll see how the rest of his season goes.
Goodness, look at all the Lugia he played. Lugia and then Chien Pao. That's it.
That's it. That's all he plays.
Well,
Um,
it looks like he picks a deck per season. So, last season it was Lugia, or 2 seasons ago it was Lugia. Last season it was Chien Pao. Looks like he's locked in on Lugia for the whole year now.
well,
I
it's
guess
gonna
until
rotate soon.
rotation, until it
Yeah,
rotates.
he's
Yeah.
got half a season on Lugia. Um, but there was a couple other Lugias in there. Rahul ran it back with his same 60 from Worlds. Like I mentioned, the 1-1 Rat, the Raikou. Some interesting. Those are like the interesting standouts from his build. That's Dippity as well, I guess. Like not everyone's running that the Dippity. Um,
The
so
Bundy.
it's a pretty strong run back, right? And most people, it seems like, have gone with no great balls. Most people are on like the nest ball squawkabilly. That's also something that Kieran had, the squawkabilly with the nest balls. So that extra turn one consistency, I guess. Um, and then Steven Vresco, another Lugia. This one is how many cards different is this from Kieran's? One or two? I'm trying to like find the standouts. It's pretty close though. The Dippity, no Dippity from Kieran. Um,
Yeah, very
still had
close.
nest balls in the ability. Was it just the Dippity? Is it just Dippity for a mist? I think it might be the literal change there. Or did Kieran have 4 research?
Let's see. Kieran did have 4 research and 4 boss. 2 Iono, 1 Jack. Yeah, so it is the research somewhere in there. But yeah, very similar build. And really nothing I would say like too surprising. Rahul's list still definitely the most unique one, right? With the Raikou and the basic lightning energy.
Yeah. Um, we did see this is probably the big standout deck from the tournament, right?
Definitely.
Is this Ogre Noivern deck? It really is
I hope people are gonna
a
have
wall
fun at
deck.
League Cups the next couple weekends until the new set comes out. I guess it's just this coming weekend.
Yeah. Who
This
knows?
is you're gonna see this deck at a locals for sure.
This thing might still be good next format as well. It kind of depends. Like it's very this is one of those decks like where people like I get people asking me like, is this deck good or what I think of this deck? It's like it's a meta call deck, right? Like it's not like the next Charizard Pidgeot. You can't play this consistently meta after meta after meta if you want to do well and win. Like, but when the meta is right for it, these are the kind of decks that can pop up, or like if people are able to get a good enough read on the meta, that's where they can bring a deck like this or
Yeah.
come up with a deck like this and bring it. So
Yeah.
we'll build for
So this
sure.
deck, for anyone listening, we're looking at Cornerstone Ogre EX. So the fighting Ogre whose ability says it can't be hit by Pokemon that have abilities. And then it's just 4 Cornerstone Ogre and then a 3/2 Noivern line. Noivern with the covert flight attack, 70 damage. And then during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by basic Pokemon. This deck plays Scoop Up Cyclone. So like against the decks that only play basic attackers, you just go lone Noivern EX and probably win the game. And then everything else has kind of a hard time dealing with Cornerstone Ogerpon. So if you have an attacking Ogerpon, sure, they might be able to deal with one that's not attacking you. But if you're attacking every turn with that thing, it'd be pretty annoying to deal with.
Yeah, exactly. Like 3 Ogre just auto wins Charizard. The Ogre pretty good against Regidrago as well. That's kind of your Regidrago matchup is just Ogre after Ogre after Ogre and then an Ogre with a miss can sustain a hit or two from the Roaring Moon with like the rock chest plate. So you got like yeah, you just use Ogre a lot, and then like obviously against Ancient Box, Raging Bolts, Miraidon, you just got the Noivern. You just get the lone Noivern, and you eventually win those matchups as well. So Yeah, good deck in the right meta, and I think this will, like, kind of give maybe people more ideas moving forward, like, with decks like this. Mimikyu is, like, also a card that wasn't played in this build, but definitely depending on the metagame, can become, like, another basically auto-win card in, like, certain matchups. Put down 2 Mimikyus, 3 Mimikyus, whatever, just
It
kinda
does feel
take
like it would
over.
have kind of a hard time against Lugia.
Yeah, if they don't have rats, actually, it's kinda close because with the rock chestplate, you 2-hit KO Lugia Vs and they 3-hit KO you, but most people have Chinchino,
Yeah.
so that's the hard part, is they most of them have the Chinchino. Lugia matchup's definitely tough. You got cool plans against pretty much everything else.
And then there were a couple Reggie Dragos hanging out in Top Cut as well. We got Rowan and Ian Robb. Ian Robb with the back-to-back finishes, changing up the worlds list a little bit. Did add the Cleffa,
Has that jamming tower as well.
and over on Rowan's side had the Cleffa, and also had Iron Bundle, which was kind of a new thing we haven't seen too much in Reggie Drago yet, but I actually kind of like it.
Yeah, also 3rd Iono, and I think Ian also went down to 1 Dragapult. Rowan went down to 1 Dragapult. I'm pretty sure Ian also, uh,
Yeah.
down to the 1 Dragapult, so trying to fit as much of the, tech cards or whatever you wanna call it in there as possible and, go through it, yeah. So Regidrago's still there, still kicking. Um, and then I guess we may as well mention there was an asymmetrical cut in this tournament. So it is possible that top 8 plays out as a top 8, but there was 2 players, Grafton Roll and Jeremy Gibson, who had match points equal to the 8th seed. So they're the 2 players who kind of played in. I believe Steven Fresco beat Grafton, and then I'm not sure on the
That
other
should have been the
match.
matchup we got to see on stream, you know?
Yeah, that would have been sick because Grafton's deck is pretty crazy, right? Like, we
We
did
did
see
get to see
this.
Grafton 60 on stream, I'm pretty sure,
Yeah.
because I think he and Hunter Butler probably played the same 60, and we did see Hunter on stream on the winning end today too.
There's no way that 2 people playing a one-on-one Greninja EX didn't have some communication between them between each other.
Both
So
from Florida as well.
yeah. So Palkia Dusknoir has been like a thing that's popped up quite a bit recently. So this is basically the Palkia Dusknoir deck. But they got that one-on-one Greninja in here, which I have to imagine is probably for like Miraidon and Iron Thorns. That's like the main like you want that like tech to just kind of smooth out your matchup spread. But overall, it's just that Palkia Dusknoir combo they're trying to abuse for aggressive KOs, and opening up like the potential of Radiant Greninja because you can use Dusknoir to like turn 2 Candy KO Manaphy, use Palkia's ability, load up your Greninja. Greninja can knock out 2 more things, and you can just kind of take over games from there. So super aggressive deck. It was cool. It was cool to see it go pretty far. But yeah, that would have been the matchup to honestly to put on stream for the asymmetrical rounds. That would have been the one to definitely see.
And then
Then
10th place, we have Jeremy Gibson, also in Top Cut with Pidgeot Control, or is it more like Pidgeot Stall, really?
yeah, it's like stall with a Pidgeot line. It's a very interesting build for sure. And then
Almost
because you
kind of like
still
what Burt Walters got top 8 with at
yeah.
EUIC this past year.
Yeah, because you have, like, the triple lax, triple Mimikyu, which does a lot of what the stall deck tries to do, and then you have the Pidgeot line in there to be, like, more consistent turn to turn, game to game, and then you have some more options with that. There's an Ogerpon, there's an Ursaluna, of course, you still have the Rotom, but then you have the Luxray and the Water Pond as well. So, yeah, really cool build. Um, I'm pretty sure actually, I think Jeremy did lose to a Lugia on the win and in match, I'm pretty sure. I don't remember for sure,
The
but
play-in
that's
match.
the play-in match. But that is a definitely probably a tough matchup. But I do maybe it's not as bad as I think it is. There's a Giacomo in here. So
It's
the only
true.
reason you would play that is if you're playing it to beat Lugia.
At least
So
give yourself a
maybe
chance.
yeah, so it either gives you a chance or maybe you have like a solid time against Lugia with this build. I don't know.
He lost to Ian.
Oh, okay, okay. Also the Regidrago. Um, which is definitely probably one of your not better matchups, but like you're comfortable with that matchup for sure. I don't think anyone was taking an uncomfortable Drago matchup, and getting this far, or super uncomfortable at the very least.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool deck as well. Like the hybrid, right, between control and stall, it feels like. And
Other
I
than
don't know if there's
that,
nothing too crazy to point out besides that in the rest of the top cut, I don't think.
yeah, we did see Tyler Matthews got a top 32 finish with Bennett. He got to play on stream as well at some point throughout the weekend, I do believe.
Yeah, it
So
was
that
cool to
Seeing Henry Brand's propaganda come through.
It's cool to see him get the run back because, like, yeah, he drew really poorly on stream and did not really get to showcase too much of what the decks can do. But then, yeah, he ended up having a pretty good performance in the end, and yeah, definitely a little bit different than what Henry had going on. But has the Salvatore and the Luminian in there for like the turn one item lock, which is cute.
Disgusting.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
deck is
or
super sick.
turn, bench a Duskull Salvatore to Dusclops. Like, there's probably a lot of good applications for the Salvatore, honestly.
They opened a Cleffa pass. All right, donk.
I mean, anything with 50, what else has 50 HP? Is there anything? It's Pidgey with 50 HP. I guess most people are playing
Yeah.
60 HP Pidgeys right
You
now,
could
but
combo that with a motivate, open a Charmander. You're still bopping them.
yeah, true, so true. But yeah, there is Baltimore. There is the results from the event. Any thoughts on this last weekend of the meta, Azul? If anyone's going to League Cups or anything like that, any tips you'd give them going into one more weekend before the new set comes out, or is legal, I should
Sheesh.
say.
Not really. Just play what you know. Tech for your local meta. Same old stuff. Nothing too crazy going on. I don't think so.
Lugia seems pretty good this weekend.
Yeah, don't lose to the shenanigans decks like the Ogre Pawns and the
Yep.
Noivern. Like, yeah, play your
This
2/2
is the
Cinccino
weekend.
and just
This is the weekend people will play shenanigans.
bring out all the cheese. That's it. Everything that's been on the back burner like all season, where it's like almost close enough. It's like, well, I may as well run it at this last League Cup.
Right.
Lugia doesn't lose to the cheese very often.
All right. Well, let's really quickly hop into City League Watch, recurring part of the show. I guess we're bringing it back where we're looking at what is doing well over in Japan. They do have the newest set legal, which will be things that make up our Surging Sparks, which is coming out in a couple of months now at this point, right?
Yeah, it's like the first half of it.
And right away, we do see one deck with new cards in it. Our Chaladon got a win at a City League.
There we go. There it is.
I know you're
Close.
kind of excited for this card. For anyone who doesn't know what it does, it's got the ability Alloy Build. You may use this ability when you play this Pokemon from your hands to evolve one of your Pokemon and then attach up to 2 basic metal energy cards from your discard pile to your metal Pokemon in any way that you like. And its attack for 3 metal, 220 damage during your opponent's next turn. This Pokemon has no weakness.
Yeah, the best way I can describe this Pokemon is it's very similar to like Charizard. Like you have everything you need in one card. A lot of HP, solid attack, self energy acceleration. Like, it's not as powerful as Charizard. I mean, if Charizard was a stage one, it would definitely just be better. The fact that it's a stage one is like, if you're gonna compare them straight up, that's where it like has an edge, I guess, whatever. But like, yeah, the best way I can like best comparison I have is like it's like a Charizard where like you have everything in a card to kind of work with, right? And this build here, and also like the card that it combos really, really strongly with is Turo, right? Because Turo allows you to pick
Mhm.
your 300 HP Pokemon up that hopefully didn't get one KO'd, and then you put it back down. Its ability self accelerates the energy back to it, and then you attach return, and you're doing 220 again. If they didn't get the one hit KO on you.
Yeah, and this build even has the Memory Dive Relicanth, where you can use the attacks of your Pokemon's previous evolutions. And Duraludon has a Rage type attack, Raging Hammer, 80 plus 10 more damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon.
Yeah, so they would have to hit you pretty hard for that to get like a big one hit KO. But like one of the matchups I was thinking about with it is like where you can kind of control how many prize cards your opponent has or how much damage your opponent does is like Charizard. So you could go out of your way to like draw just enough where they don't quite one hit KO you, and then like you draw 3 prize cards, they hit you for 270, you one hit KO them right back, right? So
Yeah. I mean, I could even see it being good against like an ancient box or something like that, right? Where they have to hit you kind of lightly a few times and they might have a hard time even 2 hit KOing you sometimes, uh, where you could get this in there, right?
yeah, yeah, definitely. Um,
I
another
guess it doesn't matter
one
because you can just use the 220 attack, but
oh yeah, you're KOing them no matter what. They don't have enough
never
HP.
mind.
All right, chalk it, Chip, chalk it. Um,
It's funny how sometimes if you think about things for 2 more seconds, you realize, wow, that was not that smart.
so there's not a whole ton of. I mean, look at the results from this whole tournament here, and from the new set that they got. There's not that much because like you see the 3 little purple guys there. That's Sarah Ledge, but they've had that for a little while now, and it seems
Just a couple weeks, just a couple weeks.
yeah, it's been doing okay for them over there. Um, one tech card that I saw pop up in some of the Raging Bolts is the Latios. That the one is Latios or Latios?
I think it's a Latias.
Latios EX. Go back one more time and click on the Raging Bolt that won the tournament.
Yeah.
There it is. And that gives all of your its ability, it's a basic Pokemon. EX gives all of your basic Pokemon free retreat, including itself. So, um,
Yeah, this is a pretty strong card, to be honest.
yeah, for a deck like Raging Bolt, giving like that mobility. Now, Raging Bolt already kind of had like once Pheasantipity came out, Raging Bolt has started to have like bench issues. I feel like it was like when Raging Bolt Ogerpon first became a deck, I was like, oh, this deck is so smooth, so clean. All of your bench Pokemon perfectly fit on your bench. Two Pawn, two Raging Bolt, Squawkabilly, and your Radiant Greninja. Like it fits so clean. Now Pheasantipity got involved. It's like, well, I'm
Dude,
not playing this.
I just do not see how people are not playing Area Zero in Raging Bolt.
I
It
mean, it
feels like
doesn't net you cards.
what are you talking? If I have 4 Teal Mask Ogrepon in play and a Mew EX and a Pheasantipity, I feel like
Sure.
I'm drawing a bunch of cards, buddy.
Yeah, but like that turn one, turn two are so important that like the chance that you're able to utilize those cards all efficiently is like less likely than Pokestop probably getting you the value, right?
Maybe so,
I have
yeah.
to imagine. But Chip, get in the kitchen, start cooking it up. Maybe you just broke. You found the BDIF. Just more consistent Raging Bolt is what we've been missing. That might be it.
Look at this deck. We got a Ceruledge and our Chaladon deck.
Ah, that's too much. There's no way. I don't know. This one's trolling for sure. There's no possible. And we got catchers in there too. The catchers.
Dude,
Maybe it
Ceruledge seems so sick.
does seem very sick. I'm excited for that one for sure. Um, I'm actually not sure the full card list of what they actually got. I think the name of their set is Breaking. Oh my gosh, what is it? We'll look it up. I don't actually know the full card list of what they got
Oh, look at
from
this
this
control deck, buddy.
Supercharged
Counter
Breaker.
Counter Gain is back as well in this set.
Oh
There's a
yeah,
new couple new A specs. This control deck is playing the Megaton Blower. Discard all tool special energies from your opponent's Pokemon and discard a Stadium in play.
that could be the. This is what Stall needs to beat Lugia, or
I've
Control
got
needs to
the
beat Lugia.
Obstruction Letter. Your opponent counts the cards in their hand, shuffles them, puts them on the bottom of their deck. Then your opponent draws that many cards. Not really sure why we're playing that.
Is there a way for us to look at their hand? Do you remember when people used to play? What was it? It was like red card and peeking red card. Was that a combo ever? They would like red card them, then they would look at their hand to see what they had.
No.
They would, dude. I swear, like peeking red card was played. Am I wrong?
Let's see. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, it was in Sableye because you'd end them low, and then you would peek in red card and look at their hand, and then you could have them shuffle it back in and draw a new hand to like hopefully have them end up with a dead hand. And this one played two peeking red cards, so you could do it again.
Sure.
If
Here
it's
we
still
are.
good, make them shuffle it back. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, there was this,
look at how toxic this format was.
and people want to bring expanded back, and there's more sets
I
since
won
then.
a league cup with this deck.
Do you have fun, Chip? Do you have fun
My
playing this
opponents didn't.
Zoroark Muck peeking red card deck?
I don't think I played Peking Red Card, but I
You weren't doing it
definitely
right.
played Red Card Delinquent.
Peking red card is like just like I guess yeah,
Maybe I did play Peking Red Card, honestly.
it's a better red card, right? It's better than just playing another red card because it's 4 random to 4 random,
Your
but you get to
opponent
like
reveals
check.
their hand. You may choose your opponent to count the number of cards in their hand, shuffle those cards back in, and then draw that many cards.
Yeah. So you just see how good their hand is, and then if it's too good, send it back. Variants will handle it.
Interesting. But yeah, back to the current format. See some control stuff popping up here. I saw one of the Dragapult lists. It wasn't one that won, but it had like the new cart that searches for all your basics in it, right?
Oh yeah. Dude,
Is
yeah,
that this
yeah.
right here? Nope, unfair
No.
stamp.
I'm not sure how I felt about that. You showed me that list. It also has so there's a new card coming out that says it's an item card. You play it, you just fill your bench with Pokemon. Um, it is an ace spec, of course. And the list had like 3 Buddy Poffin and that. And I was like, I don't know about that. That feels like
I feel like if you're playing that as your A spec, we're dipping out on the Buddy Poffins.
yeah, we're trying to go maybe like one. You need some like refill eventually, but I feel like we're trying to take advantage of the fact that we play that ace spec card. I don't
Yeah.
know. Crispin and Mela, chill.
One lets you draw cards, one doesn't.
True.
Um, but yeah, then there's some Roaring Moon, it looks like. We see a Roaring Moon list here. It doesn't look like there's anything super spicy. Looks pretty similar to the list. Oh, we got this new bell. What is this thing? Assistance bell. Oh, yeah, this is cool. You can only use it on your first turn if you go second. Search your deck for a supporter and put it in your hand, replacing Pokegear.
Were you being sarcastic or?
I mean, I don't know. It seems pretty decent to me.
Oh yeah, no, I don't know. I think cards like this are just it's not Battle VIP Pass, but do we really need cards like this? Or should you have to build your deck around Pokegear to get a function out of it? Like how much do we want to give you on your first turn of the game that every deck is just a turbo deck? You got your Billies, you got your Bells. Like, do we want more of these cards on your first turn going
I,
second
well, I,
cards?
I didn't say anything about wanting the card. I'm saying it's like cool that it's in their deck. Oh, this is a cool, like a good. This is a deck that uses this card well.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm just kind of bringing up the talking point around it.
Yeah,
I don't think it's cool. I'm scared.
definitely will enable some super aggressive combos. And you can see like
Yeah.
there's no Pokegear, right? But they've got Tatsugiri for the rest of the game, right? So you get your bell early. They're giving up on the Pokegears to use the bell because like turn one judging or turn one sodding is so good with this deck.
Yeah. Tatsugiri is broken. If you know, you know.
I don't know.
Yeah. Someone will know what I'm saying. Um, yeah, I mean, I think one thing to take away from all this as well, there's not that much different, right? From what we're currently playing with right now in the Stellar Crown format, or even at the World Championships, which is a format back. There's not too much different going on here. Where are the Area Zero decks? Non-existent. They're just not out there. I don't know if they're good. I've definitely played with some Area Zero decks, but like you look at all these results, no Area Zero. Feels that it does feel kind of bad that it feels like maybe not that much is shaking up, but there's still a whole lot of Pokemon players who haven't really played with the cards yet, which we always see that change, right? Like there's always other people out there to make innovations in the game.
Here's
Japan
your
doesn't solve everything immediately.
here's your Area Zero deck, buddy.
Dude, they got the whole squad. Oh my gosh. Latias is broken in there.
Yeah,
Who in the what you can't trap anything. The whole squad's mobile. Wait, okay, that card's better than I thought in some decks like this. Sheesh. Wait, is that better than Pecharunt in Roaring Moon? Dude, I thought this card was like not that good. Latias is pretty good.
maybe it is better than Petrarunt because you can use it with like Tatsugiri a little easier and stuff too, right? Like you can get your Tatsugiri active.
Also, you don't poison your moon like when you
Yeah,
send
yeah,
it up.
true. That's a pretty good
Which
point.
yeah, a lot of decks can like take advantage of it, like being poisoned. I KO'd a Roaring Moon earlier today with a Score Bunny for 10 damage. Um, man, getting aggressive out here.
Well, we'll get another update next week and see if anything has changed when players have had more of a chance to get their hands on the new cards.
And well, when we
Um,
come back next week, Champions League will have happened too. So we'll see.
True.
That's where we usually see the biggest innovation happen, right? Is at these major tournaments, the city leagues, the league cups. You're not going to see as many people trying as hard for these and bringing out like their cool broken decks. So I'm really excited to see what happens at Champions League, or maybe I'll be kind of disappointed because it's going to be a bunch of Raging Bone Lugia or something like that.
Am I lagging for you?
A little bit, yeah.
It's lagging in OBS as well. We'll just keep rolling. I think my audio looks good, so that's fine at least.
Okay.
All right, well, let's move on and to guess that flavor text. But before we do, we have to take a moment to thank our fantastic sponsor, Dragon Shield, for being a sponsor of the Uncommon Energy podcast. The new season is here, and you better make sure that you are ready to go for it. Use our code UEPOD on the website. Get yourself 5% off and load up on some sleeves for the brand new season. Also, if you're someone who enjoys custom sleeves, I will say that we did use some for the Chaos Cube Championship weekend. I grabbed one, snuck it in the back of my phone case. Puka got these printed Chaos Gym, Chaos Cube exclusive sleeves for the weekend.
Those are pretty sick. Yeah,
So
make
that's
sure you
something you
stock
can do
up.
on the website as well.
Yeah, make sure you stock up on sleeves. Use the code. Support us. Don't be that one friend who always has to ask someone for a pack of sleeves. Stock up.
Mm.
Bring your own.
In fact, buy an extra pack so that you
Yeah.
can be the friend who has the sleeves for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. You can become that friend. All right. Guess that flavor text, Chip. It is your week to pick a card for me. Read me the flavor text, and then I try and guess what Pokemon belongs to that card. If I get it right without using any lifelines, I get 4 points for each lifeline I use. One less point. The lifelines are what set the card is from, what stage the card is, and then read an attack name. I'm ready. We've had a little bit of back and forth actually. Wait, 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah, 3
I was
weeks
a
in a
little
row, someone has gotten a point at least. We'll see if Azul can keep it up here. I'm currently in the lead 30 to 25. We'll
I
see
was
if you
within
can
1
see if
point.
you can catch back up, buddy.
Yeah, I was within 1 point for a little while there. Yeah, I'm do my best. Alright, hit me with a chip.
All right. It shows no mercy to any who desecrate fields and mountains. It will fly around on its icy wings, causing a blizzard to chase offenders away.
I mean, this just sounds like Articuno. Alright, read it to me one more time.
It shows no mercy to any who desecrate fields and mountains. It will fly around on its icy wings, causing a blizzard to chase offenders away.
I mean, this definitely just sounds like Articuno. I'm gonna go with what I'm gonna, like I wanna, like, make sure, though, so I'm gonna go with what stage the card is.
It is a stage one.
Okay, so it's not Articuno. Alright, read it to me one more time.
It shows no mercy to any who desecrate fields and mountains. It will fly around on its icy wings, causing a blizzard to chase offenders away.
Stage 1 with icy wings. Um, that's protective of what was it? Mountains and fields?
It shows no mercy to any who desecrate fields and mountains.
Fields and mountains? Oh, man, I'm
You
trying
got
to I
two
think
more
I'm gonna
lifelines to use.
yeah, I think I'll have to use one of them. I'm trying to think of just, like, water, ice Pokemon. None are really coming to mind. They also have wings, of course. I need to have wings. Yeah, I think I gotta use a lifeline here. I'm gonna go with what set the card is from.
It is from Sword and Shield base set.
Sword and Shield base set. I feel like I should be able to get this one then. Sword and Shield base set, Icy Wings, Stage 1 Pokemon. Dude, I'm just still just drawing a blank. Bird Pokemon. Lion Pokemon. Alright. What is an attack name?
Aurora Beam.
Aurora Beam. Dude, how can I should be able to get this for sure. What Pokemon has Aurora Beam? I know this, like I know that attack. I've seen it on cards before. Dude, I'm still just drawing a blank. I have nothing. I have nothing.
Wow. We're going to need an answer soon, buddy.
I know I'm trying to come up with something. I'm trying to come up with anything. Oh my gosh. I literally can't even come up with a Pokemon. I literally can't come up with anything.
Pikachu.
That's not good enough. Come on, what is something? Just give me anything. I'll just guess anything at this point.
I
I'm
mean,
trying to
think
like
about that
anything.
time frame of the game. The brand new generation came out, some of the cards that were kind of around.
This is not helping me at all. I played the Sword and Shield video game as well. That's the only video game I've ever
You probably
played.
didn't play it enough to get to the point where you found this Pokemon.
Yeah. Dude, I'm just straight drawing a blank. I have no clue what this
Are you
is.
just surrendering your
I
guess?
might. I can't come up with wings. It could be a dragon. Oh, it probably wait, isn't Aurora Beam a dragon Pokemon attack? I feel like it
It's
is.
usually an ice Pokemon attack.
Okay. I got nothing. I think I'm just gonna surrender. I can't nothing comes to mind that's even reasonable. I'll guess Mudkip.
That's not a stage one Pokemon.
Close enough.
Let me give you the ability name and let's see if you can get it based off that. No points, unfortunately, Azul, but its ability is Ice Dance.
Ice. That also sounds familiar. I still don't know.
Its ability reads as often as you like during your turn, you may attach a water energy card from your
Oh,
hand
it's Frostmoth.
to one
Oh
of
my.
your benched water Pokemon. Yes, it is indeed Frostmoth, the Frost Moth Pokemon.
That's the kind of Pokemon it is? Oh, Frost. Frostmoth. Eh.
It says it right there, Frost
No,
Moth
yeah, I
Pokemon.
know. Yeah, I probably should have been able to get this one, not gonna lie. I
I
definitely
thought
didn't.
you had a chance.
I had a Snom in the video game, I'm pretty sure.
Well, you made it
So,
decently far then. I don't think you can catch him until a little bit later.
yeah. Well, I beat the story of the game.
Oh,
Like, I
okay.
got yeah. I don't think I ever saw a Frostmoth.
I'm pretty sure you have to do something really weird to evolve Snom into Frostmoth in the video game.
Do you?
Yeah. Let me look it up, because it is pretty. Oh, it has to have a high friendship level.
Mm,
So it's not
okay.
that weird, but it's just like a Pokemon you would have to have had in your party for a while and have used a little bit to build up its
I don't
friendship.
I don't like any of my Pokemon from the game, so there's
That's
no
true.
way
Azul is friends with no Pokemon.
I would have been able to evolve this one for sure. All right. Well, yeah, new set out in Japan, like we just talked about, but we are getting a new set or have had a new set for what the past week or so. Stellar Crown has been out on PTCG Live for about a week now. There's been online tournaments happening with it. And man, there's not that much. There's just it's the good cards from last format are really good apparently because Area Zero and Terapagos like are the big ones. I've been falling flat a little bit. It feels like.
Yeah, this has been, I feel like, the best use of Area Zero so far has been this Miraidon deck that's popped up a little bit.
Yeah,
You get yourself 4 of the Area Zero Underpath, and then it's really just a deck that's trying to attack with Raikou as quickly as possible. Miraidon tandem units your Mewtwo in play, and then all your attackers and such. You turbo through the deck with Mew and Squawkabilly, and do a bunch of damage to something that's in the active spot with Raikou on turn 1.
yeah. And then a cool build of this deck actually involves Secret Box. It's something I want to try. I haven't tried the Secret Box build yet, but you can like you get the Area Zero, and you can like if you like Arvin for Secret Box plus 4 Seal Stone, the Secret Box finds like Rescue Board and a generator, so it's like 2 generators plus your pivot card plus the stadium to go wide on your bench. So that's like a really cool way to play the deck. You have like a really powerful turn one. You kind of wish you had Prime Catcher after that sometimes,
Yeah.
but the idea of it's cool. I actually saw someone playing that on stream. I think against James Goring, who's a player from Japan at Worlds. Um, they were playing the Secret Box Maraudon build, so it's been happening for a little bit. Um,
I like how this person who won this tournament's name is Mickey Mouse.
they know what they're playing in. They know.
I did see Evan post his list over on Twitter. Evan Campbell here, who's an online tournament grinder, has been grinding some events with Terapagos EX. Had some decent finishes.
Yeah, it's good to see. It gives me hope for it. I still haven't played with Terapagos yet. I've played with a lot of things. This is what I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast. There's like so much Pokemon to play right now. I haven't touched Terapagos yet, but yeah, this Dusknoir Terapagos. Usually, I feel like every list that I see has Briar in it. This list does not have the Briar for like even furthering your aggressive prize trade potential.
Yeah, that
But
feels really
still,
weird because it has Pidgeot, so you could find it when you want it, and it also has Dusknoir, so your opponent can't play around it.
yeah, yeah, it feels a
Briar
little
seems
weird
like a
for it to not be here.
pretty straightforward inclusion.
But maybe just being more consistent. Maybe just Dusknoir Terapagos is just broken in general. Like you don't need the Briar. Although it feels weird to not have for sure because it seems like such a powerful inclusion. Because yeah, that's actually been one thing. I think we talked about it last episode. I was like, Briar doesn't seem that good, and it kind of seems a little toxic towards one prize decks, which it definitely is. Feels really bad or really good if you go up against Ancient Box and you're playing Briar. And
How is Terapagos getting classified as other?
Robin hasn't fully updated the site yet, probably. Um, I heard he was actually at Baltimore, so that's probably one reason
Ah,
that hasn't been updated yet.
makes
Um,
sense.
Yeah, Briar's definitely better than my previous impressions. My initial impression of Briar was, "Oh, this is broken," and then I was like, it seems decent, but it's like not ridiculously good." Now I'm like, "All right, it's pretty good," and it's really unfortunate for one prize decks. Like one prize decks are basically, I mean, I almost want to say just not playable. Like you basically just can't play them, and this is like some kind of stall maybe. Like Snorlax stall might survive, but like
Assuming people are
ancient
playing the
boxes,
Briar in decks like
yeah,
this.
yeah. But like stuff like ancient, yeah. If the meta has a decent, and there's so many decks that can play Briar is the problem. So it's not even like, oh, if only half of Charizard players play Briar, I can play Ancient Box. It's like, well, if half of every single archetype that is a tier one or tier two deck plays Briar, I don't think I can play Ancient Box anymore. Because now even stuff like Raging Bolt, you might still be favored against Raging Bolt as Ancient Box, but it got a lot closer because of Briar for sure. So it went from like a very good matchup to I don't know, maybe a 50-50 even. I don't know. I guess I'd have to play it with the Briar involved. Because there's so many times where I play Ancient Box and I would let Raging Bolt draw 3 prize cards, or like they would before I could even get a knockout.
Mhm.
Can't do that anymore. They'll actually win the game with the Briar.
I was just gonna
There's
click
that.
on some of these, like, other lists and see what people are playing. Look at
What are the Pokemon? Oh, there we go. Oh, this has been a deck for a little while.
Yeah, yeah.
Broken Venomoth Frostlass.
But yeah, I mean, as far as like what's winning these tournaments, I mean that Maridon deck won a 200-person tournament. This looks like a Snorlax deck winning this 120-person tournament. A nearly 200-person tournament was closed deckless. I think this is a tournament where Evan was playing his what's it called deck?
Yeah.
His Terapagos deck.
Yeah, we don't have like the yeah, because like the Robin hadn't fully updated the card pool or whatever, that kind of like behind the scenes thing that has to happen. So a lot
Mm.
of these a lot of these tournaments don't have deck lists for them. 'Cause they happened before Robin had updated the system, but you
Look at
can
this
still play in
list.
them. Yeah, I mean, it's like controls hard, right?
Yeah.
With the squad in there.
Legacy Energy Magma Basin.
I like because I'm like when I like play these decks a little bit more and I'm a little bit more in tune with like the options, I can like look at this and understand it a little better. But actually, like looking at a deck like this, I'm like, I don't know how this thing wins games. I don't know like what the matchups for using the tech cards for.
Yeah. These are the
Yeah,
type of decks that it's like the person who made it, you know.
they know for sure,
Yeah.
and they might only know. They might be the only ones who
Yeah.
know. But
But yeah, still pretty early. Not a whole lot to kind of take away. Looks like some people trying out the Gardevoir and stuff still.
I've been having a
Um,
ton of fun with like the set in general
yeah,
because
what are the things you've enjoyed the most so far the first week?
I would say Area Zero stuff. I've done Zoroark, I've done Maridon. So those have been fun. Area Zero just been fun. Just having a big bench is kind of cool. I think it'll probably get a little bit stale eventually, of course. And I'm kind of scared for like how this format is going to feel moving forward a little bit, just because I feel like it's possible that Briar kind of sucks the fun out of everything, or like some combination of like Briar plus Dusknoir. Like the combo based stuff is just like not it's like games are over by, like, turn 2. Like,
Mhm.
you set up, you combo, and it's like, "Well, here we
You haven't
are."
found a deck yet that has you like excited for LAIC.
No, not really, no. Especially because like, the new set's gonna be dropping that week before, so, like, I, like, am not excited for and that's why I might just not go to LAIC because Surging Sparks comes out the week before LAIC. I'd rather maybe just restream the event. That'd be a cool experience to do that. I've
You
never
could
restreamed
still
an IC
go though,
event.
like you just don't go the full week before like you normally do.
I could just not go, though. That sounds like the move.
You hate to see it, man. It's
Alright,
like
I'll win a UIC and an AIC back to back. Easy, no problem. Might skip LAIC though.
be
Sure.
a real shame
Oh,
if you didn't get your invite, wouldn't it?
I wouldn't stress it. It'd be fine. I just restream more often. I don't know.
He
I've had a
says,
ton of
"I'm
fun.
not worried." The guy who's gonna
Re-
go to 0 tournaments.
Redoing the tournaments is just like it's just fun. I really enjoy it. I did some of
That's
it
good.
last season, and like being able to do it where I don't have to wake up at well, the ones in Japan actually are pretty reasonable because it starts at like 5 p.m. my time on the West Coast. So the Champions League, like the one that's coming up this weekend, those aren't that bad for me to restream. But like the European ones are kind of tough, especially because like I have a pretty strict sleep schedule. Like I literally fall asleep at midnight, wake up like pretty much naturally at 7:30 a.m. So like it's just like doing the European ones can be tough to break out of my routine. So, but I still like to do them because it is like it's good content, but I also really enjoy just restreaming Pokemon. Like I had so much fun restreaming Baltimore, like getting hype for like the top decks and the plays happening and discussing the plays with chat and all that kind of stuff. So really enjoy that experience overall. So I'm excited to do more of that. And hey, if I end up taking like most of the season off, I'll go to some things for sure, obviously. But there's always next season. Like I'm not stressing about anything. I could be competitive in the Pokemon TCG for 10 plus years if I really wanted to. So doing something different this season, I'll probably be back a little bit stronger next season at the very least. But taking a season off to do something different, I don't think it's like a terrible thing. Although a lot of people I feel like are expecting something of me, or expecting me to like show up to these events, obviously and stuff. But it's
Yeah, it
different.
definitely feels like people I mean, I feel this a little bit, right? As someone who's like a fan of the game and has enjoyed watching you succeed and win tournaments, like it definitely the tournament feels less exciting when the like some of the best players are not at it, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, having all like it's really cool when like toward going to Baltimore is cool, and
Mhm.
then we even had more. Like I said, I think Robin was there, Stefan was there,
Yep.
so like having more international competition like that is really sick. And
I'm
like
sure
to
you were
see more of
asked
that
in your
moving
chat
forward.
many, many times There was another certain player who was at the tournament who almost made top 8. If you know, you know, but, yeah, Azul, how'd you feel about that?
So we talked about it, right? We said like, all right, listen, it's like don't waste energy on it, right? Like there's no reason to waste energy on on them being at tournaments. Like Pokemon didn't do anything about it. It's 2 years ago now, right? Or yeah, like 2 years ago now. They're not
Yeah.
gonna do anything about it, right? Like nothing's changing. It doesn't matter how mad and frustrated you get. But I think it'd be pretty good karma if they make it to the finals of a major tournament, so they're forced to be on stream, um, at a big major. So I was actually it's weird to say, but I was kinda rooting for them to go all the way because I wanna see Pokemon forced to put this player on stream. I think that would be interesting. I think it'd be even better. I think it'd be really funny if this is what I came up with in my chat. The ultimate timeline is they make it to a final, so they have to be streamed, and Pablo is streaming the match. I think that would be so sick.
Oh, man.
That's my
Well,
perfect
I will tell you
timeline.
they will not get my vote to go on stream.
Hey, if they make it to the finals, no one they don't you don't have a choice. They gotta go on. So
Yeah.
I think it'll be decent karma at this point. Like, yeah, because obviously nothing's gonna happen. People like getting frustrated and stuff over it. And that's what I said to my people in my chat too. Is like, don't waste your energy on this anymore. Like, it's not happening. Um, all we can hope is like, if something does come up with that player again, that then something does happen, right? So don't get mad or frustrated. Don't waste your energy. I just think it would be a pretty hilarious timeline for sure. Um, but yeah. All right, Chip. I mean, I think that's all I got this week. You got anything else for the people?
I don't think so. I think that is going to do it for us. Thanks so much to everyone for listening. As always, we are about to do our exclusive extra bonus episode. So if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to become a YouTube member so you can watch that. And if you're listening on Spotify, be sure to subscribe on Spotify so that you can get a piece of that and also support the content we're making here on the podcast. Yeah, big thanks as always for the support. If you want to stay up to date with myself and Azul, the best place to do it is over on X. You can follow myself at Chip Ritchie Azul at Azul_GG. And you can also follow the podcast at Uncommon underscore energy.
Yeah, appreciate the support as always. Good luck to anyone. I guess playing in your final. What are we? Shred of Fable format. Final Shred of
Yes.
Fable format tournaments. And we'll catch y'all here next Wednesday, 7 a.m. Eastern.